Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get started. This is the hidden science behind trustworthy relationships. If you're just now joining in, I was just letting everyone know that we get lied to 200 times per day. 200 times per day, the average person gets lied to. And this session is going to help us find those trustworthy people in a room full of lies. We're going to actually go over this hidden science behind trustworthy relationships. If you're ready, drop a heart in the chat, as well as where you are viewing from today. And I was saying before, if you are watching this on a replay, I want you to act like you're watching it live. Drop your comments in there, because even after the replay, we are going to be following up on the post, answering questions and things like that. We even have some time for some Q&A at the end. So let's dive right in. Who am I? I am Julius Deshon Jackson. And those are my children right there with my wife. I've been with my wife 21 years, since we were 16. So I'm either an expert or a sucker for love. I also am an author of this book here, The Love Life, The Secret Science of Love and How to Master It. If you type in The Love Life, The Secret Science of Love and How to Master It, it will take you to an Amazon link, but I'll also drop that my link tree into the comments, so you guys can check that out there. It is free to read right now on Amazon Kindle. So I want to make sure that everyone has this information. So I've been actually coaching love and life design 15 years. This is my 15th year. I'm also an astrologer. I've done thousands of readings around this planet for people of all walks of life. So also in my link tree, there is a way to access my readings. And I have some other businesses that I do on the side. I'm the COO at Global Investment Company. I'm a senior I'm a senior trainer in healing centered engagement. I'm also a consultant. I've worked with companies like Facebook, Google, Singularity University, and PayPal. So why are we here? Why are we here today? I just want to kind of go over these facts, right? So on average, there's over 740,000 divorces per year, and that's just in the United States. We're not even talking global numbers here. Okay? Nearly 40% of marriages end in divorce. That means 2 out of every 5 people that get divorced that get married in America are likely to get divorced. And I'm going to talk about how we can work on those numbers today. 10 million people experience domestic violence per year. And 1,600 of those end in homicide. So how do you know when it's time to cut toxic relationships? And how do you cut toxic relationships? We're also going to talk about that today. There are 2.2 million fraud reports per year. And that's a crazy number, especially when you consider that that usually leads in $3.3 billion in losses. And, that number would just be an arbitrary number if the majority of those, 60% of those, are frauds committed by romantic partners. And the reason why that is increasing is because, the top 3 ways people are meeting nowadays. Number 1 is online through apps and social media websites. Number 2 is at bars and at restaurants and things like that. And then number 3, people are meeting people through friends and family. Now, believe it or not, number 3 is actually the safest way to meet someone. Is being a referral, right? We work on a lot of referrals in our business. But yeah, 1 out of 5 men cheat, and 1 out of 7.5 women cheat. So, those are just the facts. And believe it or not, the information that we're going to go over today is going to help you determine if this person is actually the person for you. Are they going to operate in integrity? Is this somebody that is a keeper? And what we're going to go over today is actually going to help relationships, people in romantic relationships, platonic relationships, friends, family, business relationships. So, I really want you guys to pull out some pens, some paper. Feel free to drop questions and comments into the comments below, because this is some serious stuff, especially if we consider the damage that can take place, right? If we look at those marriages, a lot of those marriages do result in broken homes where children are caught in the crossfire. A lot of those DV experiences end in homicide. A lot of those DV experiences traumatize our young people. Those fraud reports can wreak havoc on our finances. And we all know that how heartbroken we can feel when our partners are operating unethically, right? So these are the things that we're going to make sure that if you guys stick around, you guys are going to be able to avoid being a victim in these situations. And so if you are somebody that has been heartbroken, has dealt with toxic partners and those karmic relationships, if you're someone that has been feeling like, I don't know if my marriage is going to work out, if you're someone that is becoming nihilistic on love and you're thinking, you know what, I'm just going to be single the rest of my life. If any of those things resonate with you, drop that broken heart in the chat so we can show you guys some love, right? But those are the things that we are going to make sure we address today, because it's game over for that, right? Now that we got the cheat code. So let's talk about layers of trust, right? What are layers of trust? So a layer of trust is most of the time when people think about relationships, they think of just one layer of trust. Do I trust this person or do I not trust this person? But the reality is there are several layers of trust, like an onion. And intimate relationships happen to have the most layers of trust. Okay. And because what ends up happening is if we're just friends or coworkers, then I just have to trust that you're going to do the job as my coworker. As a friend, I just have to trust that you're not going to stab me in the back, right? Loyalty is that layer of trust. But when we start talking about an intimate partner, I have to trust you with my safety, right? That I'm not going to become one of those 1,600 victims that we talked about that end in fatal relationships. I have to trust that you are going to have integrity around being a co-parent, right? Co-parenting is a layer of trust. I have to trust you financially if we're living together and we're sharing bills and finances. That's financial trust. I have to trust you with my health, right? That you're not going to go out there, commit infidelity, and bring me back home some STD. That is a layer of trust, the health layer of trust, right? I have to trust you alone with my children, right? So there's all of these different layers of trust that happen. When we're talking about business, I got to trust you financially. I got to trust that you have integrity. I got to trust that you're not going to destroy our business, right? So there's all of these different layers of trust. And the problem is we give people the responsibility, because trust Trusting someone is giving them a responsibility not to break it. We're giving away that responsibility to people that haven't earned it. Okay, so when we're talking about trust, it initially starts as a verb, and that means believe in reliability, truth, ability, or strength, and that's from the Old Norse traust, meaning strong. And the reason why this notion even was established is because they would build these bridges over rivers, or they'd build a bridge over over an overpass or over a large gap. And they needed to make sure that that trust was strong before they'd be willing to bring the women and children over that bridge. They needed to know that it was strong, right? But some of us are loaning our friends money without knowing that that trust is strong. Some of us are getting married or establishing relationships with people, and we don't know if that particular layer of trust is strong. And that's why 2 out of 5, 40% of people in this nation are finding out that the trust was not strong. Okay? Now, the archaic notion of the word trust is to allow credit to someone. Okay? Now, how do you know if I should give someone that responsibility to allow credit to them? Well, there is a formula for that, and that's what we're going to go over. It's a very simple formula, okay? And it is value plus values equals the outcome. The value that this person brings to me plus the values that they have is going to equal the outcome of our experience. And we're actually going to go over that term VVS in a future session where we're really going to dive deep on all of this stuff. So if you're feeling this content so far, drop a thumbs up. So value plus values equals outcome. This is how you know if you're going to become one of those victims. And if you look back at any of your relationships, you can see what value did this person bring into my life? Any relationship. And what values did that person have? Right? What did they value most? That is always going to determine what the future of that relationship is going to be. And there's only 4 types of people. We talked about this in a post earlier. There's only 4 types of people that you're going to come across. Only 4 types of relationships you're going to form. And I'm going to talk about how to navigate them wisely on this one. Number 1 is the destroyer. We don't have shared values, right? We don't believe in the same things. And you add no value. These people can only take away. They cannot add anything to your life. They can't add anything morally or ethically to your life because you don't share the same values. And they add no value. So therefore, they can only take from you. Run and cut your losses. Number 2 is the frenemy, right? They add value, but you don't have the same shared values. So this is a very surface relationship, and you should always enter at your own risk. You're always going to have to watch your back with these people, because even though you guys have shared, you guys are adding value to each other, this person is waiting for that moment to strike. They are waiting. Maybe they're looking at your partner and they're plotting on that. Maybe they're waiting to steal from your business, right? Maybe this person is stealing out of your purse. You know what I'm saying? These people are, watch your back. You don't have the same value system. And so you can't just give away trust because you're giving them the responsibility not to break it when it's not common sense between the two of you guys that, hey, don't talk behind my back. If I share my secret to you, right, and I have a value that I don't reveal people's secrets, and you don't share that value, chances are if I tell you my business, you're going to go and tell someone else, right? The next one is the friend. They may not add a lot of material value to your life, but they do have shared values. So you guys can support each other. If you're going to go do something stupid, they can talk you off the ledge. You might have a great time spending great time with them, et cetera, et cetera. But the last one is really who we're looking for. This is the lifer. Not only do they add value to your life, but they have shared values. So if we're looking at those different layers of trust, how would I analyze that within a layer of trust? Number one, if this person is asking me to allow credit, let's talk about finance. If we go to that archaic word of trust, if this person is asking me to loan them money, does this person have a job? Has this person loaned me money before? Does this person have a track record of paying people back? Does this person have a track record of not paying people back, right? Does this person add value to me? Do I owe them a favor? What values does this person have, okay? If we're looking at it as far as fidelity or loyalty or faithfulness in a relationship, right? Has this person shown me that they have the values of loyalty? Has this person shown me that they can add value by reassuring me, by having integrity, right? So before we give somebody that responsibility in a layer of trust, we have to make sure that they've earned it. So what happens if we find a lifer and we want to build that relationship? Or what happens if we've already tied bonds with a destroyer? How do we end that relationship? I'm glad you asked. So this is actually a formula that was given to me by an FBI agent. And he's also the author of The Like Switch. And it's a very simple formula. This is how they get terrorists to turn on their own organizations. This is how they get new spies to turn on their governments. And it's a very simple formula. This is how relationships are built. This is how bonds are built. So it works like this. If I want to build a relationship, I'm going to increase the number of frequency, the times that we interact together. So maybe I normally only see this person once a month. We normally only speak once a month. I'm going to increase that frequency maybe to once a week, maybe twice a week, right? Now, during that time that we're spending together, there's the second part of the formula is proximity. How close are we sitting, right? Say I want to take someone on a date. Am I sitting across the table from them, or am I sitting right next to them? That's proximity. How close are we sitting? If we go to the movies, is there a seat between us? Or are we sitting right next to each other with the armrest up, right? The proximity is second. So during those frequent encounters, we have to be close with each other. Number 3 is intensity. How intense is that experience? Is that experience lasting just a brief moment? Am I just seeing this person in passing? Or are we or is that intensity intensified? For instance, are we going on a roller coaster, right? Are we watching an action movie, right? Are we doing some kind of adventure? Are we going hiking or whitewater rafting? How intense is that experience? We're sitting close, we're seeing each other frequently, and we're having intense experiences. And then the last is the duration. Now, the duration matters because that tells us how long is this experience actually happening. How many times? How close are we? How intense is that experience? How long is that intense experience? So if we can only go on one more ride, let's go on the ride that's the longest roller coaster at this theme park, right? The duration. If we're going to go to the movies, let's go to one of the longer movies instead of a short flick, right? We want that duration during that time period to be longer. Now, what happens if I want to end a relationship? Well, instead of seeing you every day, I might only see you once a month. When I see you, I'm not going to be very close to you. I might be a little more closed off. I might be a little more distant. Instead of sitting right next to you, I'm going to sit across the room. It's not going to be intense. My responses in our conversation are going to be like, oh, okay. Yeah, for sure. Right. Whatever. I'm not adding in a lot of intensity. I'm going to seem far more indifferent. And our interactions are going to be very short interactions. Okay. Now, this last one here, the Tarabala, is actually the ancient science of divine timing. And based on the time and day that and location that you were born, there are specific time periods throughout each day that are more lucky for you. So if you want to interact with someone to build a bond, you want to connect with them during a lucky time period. If you want to break the bond, then you interact with them during an unlucky time period, right? And so we'll actually also talk about that in a lot more depth pretty soon. But I want to open the floor. I don't want to keep this thing long and drawn out. I really just want to kind of give you guys an introduction to me and some of the value that we're gonna build as we dive deeper into this stuff in our next session, because that one's gonna be more of a deep dive. But I want to open the floor for any Q&A. So I'm going to check the comments here and see if there's any questions. All right. Let's see. Got a couple of comments. How do you rebuild trust after it's been broken? Great question. So one of those things is you have to go in and repair it, right? If one of those bridges break down, you want to make sure that you go in and you fix the part of the trust that has broken down. So say, for instance, the layer of trust is integrity. This person keeps saying they're going to get up and get a job and they never do, right? Or they keep making promises and they keep breaking those promises. The layer of trust that needs to be fixed is not going to be the layer of trust of finance or fidelity. The layer of trust that needs to be fixed is the layer of trust of integrity. Right? So that particular layer of trust needs to be worked on, and it takes time. Okay. So for a layer of trust, there's two things that need to be repaired in that layer of trust. Number one is honor. And then number two is respect. So I need to be able to respect you, and I need to know that you are honorable. You have dignity in that. And that really comes from time, right? Integrity over time equals honor. And as far as respect means that I know that you are actually going to do what you say you're going to do. And again, that's integrity over time. So in that layer of trust, if that person has broken the layer of trust of integrity, they have to follow through with their word, right? And they have to show that over an extended period of time. You don't go back into trusting them and giving away that responsibility until they show you that they have that capacity. Before you loan someone money, if they haven't paid you back before, one, they need to pay you back. Two, you need to see that whenever they borrow money from others, that they're paying people back. They need to have a source of income to show that they can pay people back. This is just like how a bank, you might have a charge off on at Capital One, but Capital One will reissue credit to you in a couple of years once they've seen that you have some trustworthy financial habits, right? But you don't try to fix a layer of trust by going deeper into that layer of trust, right? So for instance, if you are struggling with infidelity with your partner, you don't go and marry that partner thinking that they're going to become more loyal because now you guys are married. That's not how that works, right? So over time, that layer of trust, it needs to be clear that that person has learned their lesson, and that happens over time with integrity. And then communication as well. So I encourage you guys to continue to drop your questions in the chat. I want to make sure that I am answering them all, but I don't want to hold people too long on this because it's really supposed to be like a less than 30-minute type thing. Our next session will be way more in depth. And I want you guys to DM me for the next steps for that session. Go ahead and or you can drop a comment and say sign me up below in the comments, and someone will reach out to you to make sure that you have that link to sign up for the next mastermind. But in that mastermind, not only are we going to go deeper on this stuff, but what happens if you are establishing a relationship? How do you create an agreement within that relationship? When people think of Venus, they often think of Venus is the planet of love. But beyond that, Venus is the planet of agreements, right? Agreements. So when you are embarking on a love journey, you want to make sure that your agreements are sewed up tight. Because a lot of times what happens is we get in these relationships and we agree to different things. And now that we're in that relationship, we're not happy. And we blame the other person for the things that we agreed to. But if you have a VVS, vision, values, standards, you're actually going to be able to be enthusiastic, which means enthusiasm. If you look at the etymology, it means to be possessed by God. You will be so excited and so ecstatic that the divine is running rampant through your relationship that you're not going to have to deal with some of those stats we talked about earlier. We're also going to we're going to go in more depth about what agreements are, what trusts are, even in more depth, and love in more depth. We're actually going to go over the formula for a long-lasting, healthy relationship. Just like there was a formula for establishing just layers of trust, there's an actual formula to why those other 3 out of 5 marriages never end. There's a secret there. And after 21 years, I'm pretty sure that I know that secret. So I look forward to connecting with you guys soon. Again, if you have any questions, you can DM me, drop them in the chat box, and let's just continue to build on this, family. I'm excited to connect with everyone, and I'll see you guys soon. Peace.